things. So this never happened, and we have gained certain authority. We have gathered enough evidence for convicting the former head of the Fiscal Service of Ukraine, former member of parliaments for embezzling, former minister of ecology and oligarch, current MP for illegal benefits, former head of the police of Odessa region for smuggling cigarettes, head of the regional state administration, Odessa business people, head of the National Guard and former member of Parliament of Ukraine, judges of different courts, and many others. Part of those people, some of those people are already convicted for prison sentences. Most of them are considered in court, with some of them have short perspectives, and some of the cases were limited by other objective forces. I would like to point the attention of the Commission to have understanding that most of the suspects are very well-off people, influential people, and sometimes their responsibility is connected not always with business activities. So their main adversary is the prosecutor, because the prosecutor is following up the case from the very beginning until the end. Unfortunately, some people use illegal methods. They are trying to influence prosecutors by means of threats. We have seen threats, and we have criminal proceedings regarding the threats towards prosecutors. They buy materials in mass media, they do smear campaigns, they denigrate prosecutors during the court hearings. Unfortunately, we can see these things. Sometimes other bodies, other agencies are involved in the attempts to influence prosecutors in order to influence their independence or to undermine their position of accusation in criminal proceedings. We were able to effectively cooperate not only with the NABU detectives, but also with the operative departments in the SBU, in the police, and we have common efforts to get results in fighting corruptions. We have common cases which are already considered in court. However, I don't think that this is a great achievement. These are fulfillment of our official duties. I believe that each prosecutor has to act like this. I believe that the operations of the department in which I am head since 2015, I believe that our department is effective, successful, and I believe that I can do more work and I can ensure more efficient work of a larger number of prosecutors in the SAPO. And also, I believe that fight against corruption should not be chaotic. It should be planned. We need to define clear priorities. So these are the motives. This is my motivations for my participation in the competition. Thank you. Please tell us, Roman Yaroslavovich, we have materials of special checks, NABU materials, NAPC materials, we have polygraph checks, and we have questionnaire, we have mass media publications. You know that we ask some questions for the society. We have some additional information, and I'm personally interested. You were commended by the International Association of Prosecutors for your leadership in complicated circumstances and good cooperation with international colleagues. So what was the cooperation and what is the award? We have global organizations of prosecutors. I'm not its member, I have never been its member, but we had cooperation. We had an international group for investigating a former MP. In Ukraine, he is accused of embezzlement in two state-owned enterprises, and he is also accused in the Switzerland for legalizing those money. So in the Confederation of Switzerland, he was sentenced in the first instance for this crime. He was sentenced to imprisonment, but right now he is appealing against this decision. So within this group, we held several meetings on the platform in Hague, Netherlands, where we had some principal agreements so that the Swiss party will be investigating Article 209. 3.6 million euros was arrested in Switzerland, and we agreed that when the sentence comes into force, the money will be returned into the state budget of Ukraine. And we were the detectives were fulfilling a number of international legal instructions. We were coordinating the requests for international assistance, and that were used by Swiss prosecutors in order to prove the guilt of this person in court. And Switzerland's prosecutor general initiated in the Global Association of the Prosecutors to award me and my colleague who were involved in the case. Thank you. And besides, the public activists have the materials that state in 2019 you were nominated to the short list of prosecutors, of prosecutors nominated for prosecutor general. The same public organizations note that there are some questions regarding the characterizing your integrity in the negative way, that you were involved in the amber mining. So we will stop on that later, because there is a big volume of interesting materials about you. So we have complaints from Mr. Trofimov, from Mr. Bestritsky, and so on. I will ask you later about that, but right now I'm interested. So why public activists nominated you to the shortlist? Response: No, I don't communicate with public society activists. I didn't know about that. Nobody was asking my consent for that. Katerina Koval: the Inspectorate General has an information regarding possible corrupt activities of Mr. Simkiv. You had 12 personal visits, field visits to the amber mining sites, and no person was detained. An internal investigation was held. You were accused of probable illegal benefits. I don't want to stop on that, because you can explain for yourself. Well, I already provided some documents and explanations, Katerina Koval. Yes, we read your explanations, but maybe some of the commission members didn't know, and we want the public activists to hear it from you, because there are so many questions, among other things regarding the amber. Yes, I have answers. So I was asking you about the questionnaire, whether you read the questionnaire or not, because I don't know. So please try to be brief. Well, if you were nominated to Prosecutor General, you have a lot of achievements and there are a lot of questions to you. Well, before answering about the amber, so in 2006, you were running from a political party in the election. No, it was 2004. Are you a member of political party today? Response: no, I'm not sure if I was a member at that time. My uncle was involved in politics. He has already died, but he was asking me to help him in the work to be a candidate. But I have never fulfilled any political activities, and I can assure you, I don't have any friends or friends of the friends who are involved in politics, or who are members of parliament. I'm neutral towards all the political forces. Moreover, we have suspects involved in all the political parties in our work. Katarina Koval: political neutrality is a very important criterion, and we stopped several candidates due to political affiliations. I'm asking this because you were running for a political party in the elections. So we had some candidates who just forgot that they had a membership in the political party. So we need to know whether you are in a political party. Response: when I was admitted to work, I undergone some checks, and I can tell you 100% I'm not a member of a political party. So can I? Moreover, I think that this party was used just for a smear campaign against me. Yes, I was running in the election, and I explained the circumstances. So let's go back to the Amber case. We have materials from the General Inspectorate. There was an official investigation that confirmed that you visited the field, and also some possible illegal benefits. So I would like to see what was the outcome. Response: no, my illegal actions were not confirmed. There was a proceeding. So there was a proceeding regarding the fact that police officer used weapons at that place. Well, of course, there is a certain attention towards this problem, but nobody even knows what is happening in that region. I believe maybe the situation is better now, but in the year 14, after the Revolution of Dignity, we had a new prosecutor of the region. And they hired all the prosecutors from the districts. And to the district prosecutors new people were appointed as prosecutor districts, and I had this task to go to a far off district in the Rivne region and to be a prosecutor there. So the situation there was catastrophic. Part of the territory wasn't even controlled by the police force. So local resident just didn't let police cars go into the district. The mining of amber was there. According to our information, it was a usual fact at that time, at that period. This was a period of the revolution, and in some way the law enforcement system was disrupted, and we had to do something. And also I was lucky because, well, the district prosecutor cannot change the situation if he doesn't have a good police head. I was lucky that the head of the district police was later. So he was organizing illegal amber mining. He was covering those persons. He was helping them to avoid criminal responsibility. And in this internal investigation, it was noted that I was not doing any illegal things. And this internal investigation was initiated by the head of the district police, who was trying to libel me using other persons. Katarina Koval. Well, look, we have this information that according to the internal investigation, that the facts were confirmed, and it was recommended to deprive you of the bonus. Look, the investigation was concerning two facts: that I was going together with other officers to to the scene of the crime, and in 12 cases, only one case was referred to court. And the second accusation was that one of the Amber miners were trying to bribe me, but they were not confirmed. But as for my violations, is that I was doing this after 6 o'clock in the evening, after the business hours. So I involved one of the officers after 6 o'clock. That was why I was deprived of the bonus, and that I put myself in danger and police officers in danger. Well, 1 year ago, we are choosing a restrictive measure to Mr. Alperin, an Odessa businessman, and we were in court until 11 o'clock in the evening. So this means that I also put the officers in danger, because after the restrictive measures, the prosecutor that was with me, was receiving threats of killing. So there was a criminal investigation open on this fact, and it is still investigated. So my violation was because after 6 o'clock in the evening, I was putting myself in the threat of danger. But the Amber is never mined in the morning or in the afternoon. Everybody is doing this illegal mining in the evening, when it's very difficult to see people. That's why we went there in the evening. And this also contradicted to... So I was fulfilling my activity to fulfill the instruction of the prosecutor's office, interdistrict work groups. So this was a group of the SBU other officers. So why have you been?
Небезпека. Це мені знає. Так. Прямо отак от є така цитата.
Дякую.
Ні, я, якщо дозволите ще закінчити, тому що те, що я розповів, це жодним чином не розкриває, що ми взагалі куди виїжджати. На прокурора району безпосередньо покладено обов'язок контролю за повнотою реєстрації працівниками міліції кримінальних злочинів, які перебувають на території району.
Євген Юрійович, ви на зв'язку? Дякую. У нас просто технічні проблеми, ми чуємо.
It seems like we've lost the translation for the last couple of minutes.
Враження, що ми втратили слово.
Томас, ми чуємо англійську.
Thomas, we can hear the English. So now we're working using the English channel now. The technical issues resolved.
Great.
Шановний перекладач. Будь ласка.
Можна продовжити? Okay, may I continue? So, over the last 6 months, just imagine, in the district of 330,000 population, we heard for several hundreds of complaints that amber is extracted here, amber is extracted there. So the investigation group didn't have time to go there, or on purpose they didn't go to the crime site. And so as questions to local deputies, and why is it happening? So back, I can remember it, the name of the head of the district police is indicated in my petition. That person gave the illegal orders to cover the illicit extraction of amber. So when we speak about the coverage of the illicit extraction, it is done in this quite a simple way. It's either we activists and the members of the local council would go to the crime site, would call phone number 120. After 3 or 4 minutes, this person would start to collect. So the illegal extractors would start to collect their equipment and disappear from the crime site. And after that, the police would come to the crime site, and they detected nothing because there were no illegal extractors. On the paper, everything seemed to be fine. So many persons were detained, and so many proceedings initiated, subject person to illegal extraction articles. But in fact, I was given instructions, and this instruction was given not only to me but to other prosecutors, to create interdepartmental groups or so-called inter-regional groups that consisted of the representatives of the local police to make impossible to exchange information. I was obliged. I went to different crime sites. So, but this information is not quite correct. It says we informed the police officers, and we gave them these notifications both from us, from the members of the local councils. We went to the crime sites 5 or 6 times. We detained also. We tried to detain a person, but then the police came. They took the equipment, but afterwards the person was sentenced. But in other cases, when we identified illegal extractors, these people either would flee from the crime site, or the police, or sometimes it would take police 20 minutes or 2 hours to come to the crime site. And so they would give time to the illicit extractors to flee from the crime site. But unfortunately, all these illegal cases of illegal extraction were not investigated at all, or properly investigated. And since later, why this investigation was instigated against me? The police, the border service of Ukraine was involved in the case, and even I, as the prosecutor, was involved in this activity of detecting the illegal group of extractors, and the group. And then the operational investigation group for police was informed about the case of illegal extraction, and at the same time, the local population in mass would come to the crime site, and they started to fight us, and they would fight back those detained persons, and after they fought back these illegal structures, finally the police came to the crime sites after like more than 1 hour. So are you talking about the illegal activity of the prosecutor of Dubrovitsky district? Yes. So when you start talking about these events, you said you worked, and these events took place indeed, and there was an issue with illegal extraction of amber. Now you occupy this position. Are there any cases at SAP, or did you care while taking the position SAP about concerning the illegal extraction of amber at the moment in your district or in your former district of responsibility? Because you said that you were such a good fighter against illegal extraction, but what about now? What have you done to raise this issue to a higher level and to take control of it? So the security service of Ukraine have detained the prosecutor of the district, and I wrote many letters and reports about his illegal activity. And as far as I know, security service of Ukraine took care of that person, and he was detained. So deputy prosecutor Mr. Borovik was in very good connection with the subject. Very often they speculate about the conflict of interests, and that you can investigate the cases. And in cases where you were involved as the detective, or so most of these cases are not directly connected with extraction of amber, because coverage of that illegal activity involves local police, local population.
У нас є справа досить серйозна.
We have a very serious case where top officials are the subjects of investigation and the subjects of illegal export of amber from the region. So this is the case when the so-called empty cars would leave Ukraine to Poland, but they were not empty. They were transporting amber. That was a very difficult, very complicated case, because we had to cooperate with Polish colleagues, and we had to receive some information from them. To some extent, you're true that I was supposed to take interest of the further investigation of that case when I took a higher position as a prosecutor, and when I was working in the specialized anti-corruption prosecutor's office. At the moment, this case is heard by a judge such and such. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roman Yaroslavich. Thank you for quite a complete answer to the question. Are there any other questions to the candidate? Mr. Vyacheslav Navrotsky. So Mr. Vyacheslav Navrotsky said that he got disconnected and he had no internet connection. So, Mr. Please stay online to make sure we have quorum. Are there any questions to Roman Yaroslavich? No questions? No other questions, colleagues?
Олексійович, є у вас питання?
Roman Alexeyevich, do you have questions? Just I raised my hand. I see your hand. Now I see it. Dear candidate, please tell us. I see that in 2015 your car was burned back in 2015. Is there any results of the investigation? Who did that, and what was the reason for burning your vehicle? Yes, indeed. It was November 2015, and there was information that they tried to burn the car, but that belongs to journalists who lived in the same building as I did. I can only assume why it happened. I believe that just before this incident, there was an interview to ICTV TV channel concerning one criminal proceeding where they involved in some big wigs or high officials. The specific names were called, and I think I connect the burning of the car with this interview. So unfortunately, neither the perpetrators nor those who ordered this crime were detected or found.
але в користуванні протягом певного часу. Можете
Could
розповісти
you
про
please
це?
speak about the
Пояснення?
you gave some explanation about ownership of some.
Значить, да, ці автомобілі
Надайте їх публічно, скажімо так.
Please give us the public explanation. So starting 2015,
року випуску він
there is
чому
a car
взагалі
vehicle produced in made in 2008. This car was burned. I mentioned it. So because I had to use it for my personal purposes. So I called my friend, and he gave me this car to you, and I used it for 2 months.
і поточний ремонт здійснювати. В подальшому
So I used that car. I repaired it, and it was the car of my friend.
це автомобіль.
The car was returned, and the owner of the car is a business person. He owns several cars, so he gave me one of his cars to be used. In fact, this is it. I specified the car in my declaration, and I had a right of use to it. I didn't procure it, neither procure it nor sell it. So under what circumstances did you meet this friend who let you use his car? He used to work at the prosecutor's office, and I baptized his child. I was a godfather to his child. And so this man, he's this acquaintance. So he baptized my child. So that's why we made friends.
А чи були, людина, яка веде бізнес, так, інколи
So
знає,
sometimes with the business person sometimes may have conflict with the law, or in this case may address the law enforcement agencies to help resolve such issues. So have you ever heard that sort of connection with your friend? No. I always delineate business and friendship. So in no way due to my obligations, I didn't have any relationship, legal relationship with this person.
Є ще
Скажіть, будь
запитання?
ласка, так, ще одне запитання.
One more question. Who else could be interested in your appointment besides yourself? Maybe some public activists can be interested in my appointment to this position. There are different public activists, of course. Some of them pursue sometimes their own goals, but I have an assumption that maybe some of the activists are interested in my appointment. Regarding other persons, I have no idea. Why can they be interested in your appointment? Because there are people that support the idea that honest and transparent courts should be in Ukraine, and likewise, professional, transparent prosecutors should occupy high positions, or not only high positions. So probably they would like to see a person like me to be the head of the SAP. So I think maybe their reasoning. I don't know for sure. Are there any questions, Mr. Roman? One of the candidates yesterday made a protest, and I didn't have time to ask him a question. So, but I didn't ask him a question about the providing public access to the psychological test of this person, because otherwise, if he would grant this access, maybe his response would be different. Would you agree to disclose information of your psychological investigation? Because sometimes the candidates fail to understand that, make the statements, and they fail to understand the situation and make us hostages of the situation. So what is his point of view? Okay, of course. Why I'm saying that? First, just imagine tomorrow you deputy, you head of this SAP, you have subjects, and and you will have you may have many questions to your subordinates, those who failed to pass the polygraph check. So how would you respond to that? So first, sometimes you can, when the candidate says yes to some direct questions, I understand the category questions you mean. So when we approved questions for polygraph specialists and different questions concerning the use of drugs, this is one of the stages of the selection process. That I like to ask. You have to understand us. I'm not talking about myself. I'm not talking about the position of the deputy general prosecutors. The prosecutor has to because polygraph is, I don't know. I'm not sure that the polygraph is very exact tool in identifying whether the person is guilty or not. No, I'm talking about a candidate who said that I used marijuana like 3 days ago. Of course, there is a law, personal data protection law, and I don't think that anybody of any of the participants or candidates would say that they would agree to publication of their data. Some high influence people would use this information to influence me or other candidates. Because we as the collection, we know we have a procedure. The information will never be publicized, and we'll never take a decision to publicize. Because if we do that, we never know. Maybe some of the candidates who are going to be the future general prosecutor or the deputy general prosecutor. I know with procedure, you can use these conclusions, and this procedure is officially approved. But I understand how the disclosure of this information could help the general public, or help what kind of benefit would be for the law enforcement system to disclose this sort of information. Thank you, Mr. Roman, for your reply. I must ask you a question. We have information that you've been complained against by lawyers, Mr. Leshko and other lawyers or advocates. So we can as the prosecutor we enforce and we carry out activity only in legal way. I understand the questions you ask me. I'm recollecting one of these cases. These allegations or these complaints are in no way related to violation of the law by me as the prosecutor. And there is a Bystritsky case, that you didn't cite to petitions to NABU's detectives about the precautionary measure. So you approve the petitions of the NABU detectives regarding the precautionary case in order to manipulate the system. I was asking. It was, in fact, they say the petition was not. There was made a petition to Solomensky district. I can't remember the name of the judge. So the investigating judge was identified, and as you know, the petition should be submitted 5 days before the maturity date, and as the date, so the petition was made on the date that is later than the maturity date. So So I had to go personally and release that person. Therefore, in this case, what we did, we recalled the petition to this investigating judge. And first, we made a petition to extend this period. Was this court judge to leave this petition without consideration? In parallel, we decided to submit another petition to be allocated to less lowered judge, less with the, and in fact all these issues that in the claim that were considered and were the subject of the proceedings. I don't know why it was so important to keep the person detained, because this person, the subject of the proceeding, was absent 3 years. He's been searched for more than 3 years, and we believe that this person may disappear again. That's why we insisted on his detention. I do not violate the prosecutor's rights. So the suspect believed that we violate our rights, but we perform our functions. We ensure the principle of inevitability of keeping the person responsible for committing a crime, given all his or her rights, civil rights are met. So I accessed the court. So they decided to keep this person beyond the term of maturity. So, because if the court would decide that the person will give his personal promise to not to leave the country, but it wasn't done, and we realized that the person may disappear. The reason I'm asking you this question is that maybe tomorrow you will become you'll make it occupy the very high position. So how would you react when occupying this position? I will try to avoid this situation in the future when I work for SAPO. Sorry for abusing my time, maybe, and asking so many questions, but I have to ask them. Are there any questions from my colleagues? I worked for NABU. I don't understand how the court can appoint the consideration of the petition outside of beyond the maturity term, because they were supposed to consider the precautionary measure. You had to respond as the prosecutor to such illegal actions, actions of the court, because it deprives the prosecutor the right to. So such actions of the court lead to the situation when the person is not detained and it has no precautionary measure against him instilled, and you're deprived your right as the prosecutor. So there are risks, and the person and the subject is able to disappear. So what did you do? As a prosecutor to preclude that? So we addressed the head of the SAPO with this decision, and he was considering 3 or 4 petitions for detention of other persons under other cases, but he was very busy. He didn't have time to consider our petition. And it was said that was the problem. It was the problem of the judge, not the automated system. But in fact, this was not the worst judge of that court to be true. We have another question. You traveled many times outside of the territory of Ukraine, especially 2017, 18, 19. So you traveled many times abroad for several days or months. So could you please describe the type of these trips abroad? Whether is your personal trips or business trips? All these trips were to Amsterdam. We traveled to Amsterdam, Hague, and they were connected with the performing of my business duties. I was a member of the international investigation group, and I'm still the member of that group. And there were investigators from Latvia, Switzerland, and other countries from time to time. Certain meetings were held. Now these meetings are held, but due to a pandemic, they're held in online mode or in the form of the video conferences. And as part of the international team, we exchange information and
So these were the journeys to Amsterdam. These were business trip, and to Israel I was sent by the Prosecutor General's office for investigative actions, and also I had a trip to Buenos Aires with a connection in Zurich. It was funded by Eurojustice. So there is a representative of the Office of the Prosecutor General in this organization. I don't know where the Eurojust is getting its funding, but my trip was funded by Eurojust. So there was a global conference of prosecutors, and it was paid for by the Global Organization of Prosecutors. My Israel journey was paid for by the Prosecutor General's office. We also participated in a UN event in Vienna 2 times. It was paid for by Prosecutor General's office. We had a connection flight to Paris, and then we were going to Seoul. This was the only time of my participation in a seminar which was organized by an NGO. But there was also a representatives from the Prosecutor General's office. It was Deputy Prosecutor General, and also I had trips to Budapest for training. It was 1 week training. This is a usual practice because some of the police officers were also going there before us. They were funded. I don't remember the exact entity which funded this. There was also a trip to Romania, Bucharest. It was funded by the Prosecutor General's office. We had a meeting with Laura Kovacci. We had an official meeting on a criminal investigation. There was also a meeting organized by OSCE in Chisinau. All the other trips, these were me and my wife. We had low-cost flights to Copenhagen, to Budapest for 2 or 3 days, and we had 3 touristic trips to Heraklion. So we were abroad for 1 week, and also 2 trips to Innsbruck. We were going by car to Italy. These were touristic trips. So I listed all my traveling abroad. Another question from Mr. Gujal. You are a public person, you're a prosecutor who is ensuring implementation of the anti-corruption policy in court, inevitability of criminal prosecution. So tell me, please, is there a possible conflict of interest when you're traveling abroad are funded by non-governmental organizations, not by your direct employer, not by the government of Ukraine, but by non-governmental organizations? Response: I don't see a problem here. It was only one time when I participated in such an international forum, but there were very important issues discussed regarding improvement of the image of Ukraine on the international level, because according to the index of Transparency International, Ukraine is is believed to be a corrupt country, and this was an opportunity for me to convince my colleagues that this is not the case, because I don't agree that Ukraine is in the bottom of the list of corruption, because I believe we have a lot of professional investigations, we have a lot of achievements. That's why I believe I didn't have a conflict of interest, and I believe this is a usual practice for officers of the Prosecutor General's office. This doesn't concern only NABU or SAPO, but other officers from other entities also go abroad to visit such events, and they are funded by NGOs. Another question: you are head of the department, so among your staff, were there any cases when people were illegally brought to criminal responsibility? For example, when your suspicion was cancelled and, none of our suspicion have been cancelled in any group, in any team. But one of the prosecutors had an exonerating sentence in the first instance court. But I don't want to talk about it right now, because very good reasons to appeal. Because you know that I'm not allowed to criticize, and taking into account the practice of the High Anti-Corruption Court, sometimes the court is correcting the mistakes by other judges. So we had a case when a person was accused of bribing. A suspect got 2 years of imprisonment, and until the end of the consideration, this term was completed. So we made an appeal. So the Chamber of Appeals requalified the case and gave this person a sentence of 6 years. Of course, we have exonerating sentences, but I would like to explain why this happened. I believe that the prosecutor was doing correct pre-trial investigation, and there was a decision of the Supreme Court after the sentence, and the High Anti-Corruption Court was used the later explanation of the Supreme Court. Katarina Koval, we need to prolong the time, extend the time, because 60 minutes have passed. Drago, do you have a recusal or self-recusal? Drago, can you hear us?
I can hear you very well, so I don't have any recusal, self-recusal.
Дякую. Дякую. Пан Соболь, ви на зв'язочку?
Thank you. Mr. Sobol, we need to vote to extend the time because 60 minutes have passed. Please vote to extend the time.
Drago is voting yes.
Дякую. Якщо немає...
Thank you. Another question from Mr. Gujal. To have any doubts for me, according to the materials that we have this piece of information that you have connections with people who are believed to be criminals in the city of Rivne, who are believed to be criminals and raiders in the city of Rivne. Response: no, this is not true. I don't have any connections or ties. Well, my acquaintances and friends and people who I'm close with, they don't have anything to do to the prosecutor's office, to the budget, to any civil positions. As for this person who is mentioned in the publication, yes, this person lives in Rivne. Well, it was characterized in a negative way, and it was found out only recently. I didn't have any connection or friendship with this person. So this information was revealed when there was a case against a member of parliament. When I referred this case against an MP to the Shevchenkivsky court, I was supporting the accusation, and we have evidence that he wanted to smear my reputation in any way, because this was my personal decision to notify him about suspicion. We were also asking to arrest him, so this was my personal decision. And one of the prosecutors was illegally brought to responsibility, which was later confirmed by the big chamber of the court. And until that time, it was enough to recuse the second prosecutor from the case. So I was the only prosecutor who has a good knowledge about this case, and I'm able to support the prosecuting position regarding the suspect. So the suspect started to have to order a smear campaign against me, because there is a rule: the larger the lies, the easier it is to believe. All those websites that publish those materials, I don't believe they are mass media, but they disseminate this information. So the lawyers of the defendant were trying to argue for my recusal. They were arguing that I'm a bad person, that I have bad friends. How can I accuse this high-ranking official, this member of parliament? But of course, the court denied my recusal, and then the mass media attacks started against me. These are like psychological attacks to make me stop participating in court meetings, to change me for another prosecutor with less experience. So I would like to explain. When the first article appeared in the day before my birthday, so it started that this article states that I keep connections with this negative person, and the conclusion was that he has to think of what he is doing, or otherwise he will have problems. The next article was published in the day before my wife's birthday. And the only fact that is true is that my wife goes to yoga training, and the yoga teacher is this person's wife, but she has another surname. So there were television, journalists are trying to terrorize me, that I was trying to cover this person who is a criminal in Rivne. But this is not true, because I believe, well, if the prosecutor is investigating a case or anti-corruption case, I don't think that I should overlook other crimes. So I hope that I have given an exhaustive answer. Katarina Koval. Well, we are asking every candidate, did you sign an open letter to support which was signed by the other staff? The response was no, I didn't sign this letter. Mr. Roman Kuibida. Have you ever been offered illegal benefits, and what was your reaction if so? Well, look, I can assure you that a prosecutor on such a position, well, Of course, he's always offered some illegal benefits, but how this is done? When I joined the SAPO and we had high-profile cases, and then some acquaintances from the security service of Ukraine, from the police, they were trying to meet me. And when I had a meeting with them, and they say that I'm a prosecutor, so they were trying to hint that I'm a prosecutor in a case. I stopped such a conversation. I wrote a report to our head, to Mr. Holodnitsky, and our position was that if I get telephone calls again, we will start criminal proceedings. Well, of course, if some acquaintances are interested in the case, they are not offering me any benefits, but I understood that if I continue this dialogue, I were able to forecast this, the results.
Дякую.
Thank you.
Є ще запитання, колеги?
Any other questions, please? A question from Olena Busol. So you listed a number of countries that you visited. So it was more often than 2 times a month. So how often? How many times per month? Response: I don't know. The last time was in January 2020, 1 year and a half ago. Before I joined the SAPO, I never visited other countries. So what is the period? So these were journeys for 5 years. First time it was Chisinau in 2016 in February. One more question from Ms. Busol. Do you believe that you are a person of integrity? Response: I'm trying to keep my integrity, and I believe that I am. I have never had any doubts in my integrity. Thanks a lot for your answer.
Є ще запитання, колеги?
Any other questions, dear colleagues?
Немає запитань? Тоді прошу.
No questions. Dear candidate, please wait outside.
Переходимо до обговорення.
Let us proceed to discussion.
Які будуть пропозиції, колеги?
Any suggestions? Any comments?
Будь ласка.
Please.
Пропозиції, ні за, ні проти.
No suggestions, neither in favor nor against. Are you tired? Roman, it's difficult to say. Shall we proceed to voting?
Ставлю на голосування.
So I'm putting to vote a draft decision where the commission members agree that the candidate, Mr. Simkiv Roman Yaroslavovich, corresponds to the criteria of integrity according to the regulation of the Selection Commission for the competition to administrative positions in the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office. Please vote.
Drago supports the candidate.
Please vote. If I am correct, in favor, Nona Tsotsoria, Thomas Firestone, Olena Busol, Mr. Koibida, Ms. Koval,
Drago also.
Decision.
А Драго Кос, ви голосували?
I'm supporting the candidate.
Драго Кос за.
Drago is in favor and not approved.
Я не чув обговорення, не був присутній через
І
те.
зараз
I didn't hear the discussion. I was not present all the time.
таким чином рішення не
Therefore, the decision did not gain enough votes. Please invite the candidate.
Шановний Ярославович, рішення відповідності кандидата
Dear candidate, the decision on the correspondence to the criteria of integrity did not gain enough votes. Thank you for the attention. Thank you for hearing me. And I hope that you will be able to elect a decent candidate, because we are still working on corruption cases. I hope that you will help us to have a good leader which will resolve many of our current problems. Thank you.
робимо перед
So, shall we make a break or shall we continue?
слідуючий кандидат Стенюк.
Next candidate, Mr. Senyuk.
Поки йде кандидат, хотів би сказати, що щоб ми
Roman Koibida. I would like to say that I would like to have this practice of discussion. If somebody is voting against, so please speak out.
Наполягала Роман Олексійович.
Yes, Roman Alexeyevich, I was insisting on that. Good day, Andrei Volodymyrovich. Good day. We have today Mr. Bogdan Romaniuk, Andrei Gudzel, Katerina Koval, Thomas Firestone, Drago Kos, Roman Koibida, Nona Tsutsuria, Olena Busol, Eugen Sobol, and Vyacheslav Navrotsky. Dear colleagues, if you have self-recusals, please speak out. According to our regulation, do you have any recusals? No recusals from the candidate? Thank you. You know that we are holding the third stage on correspondence to the criterion of integrity, income and expenses, professional ethics, political neutrality, and other aspects of integrity. Senyuk Andrei Volodymyrovich, born in 1988, never been brought to criminal responsibility or to administrative responsibility for corruption violations. Graduated National Legal Academy of Yaroslav the Wise, Master of Arts, used to work from the year 10 to year 11 in the prosecutor office as an investigator, so assistant to the prosecutor in Vinnytsia region, 2012-2013. Also senior investigator of the senior prosecutor of prosecutor's office of Rivne region, senior investigator, prosecutor general's office, senior investigator for important crimes, for crimes committed by prosecutor office, by the prosecutors, and on information security, year 16 to 18, deputy head of the Department of Pretrial Investigation for crimes committed by prosecutors or officers of the Inspectorate General, Prosecutor General's Office, deputy head of the First Department of Procedural Guidance and Supervision of Inspectorate General, Prosecutor General's Office, Prosecutor of Procedural Guidance and Support of Prosecution in the Department of Supervision for Specialized Law Enforcement Agencies, prosecutor overseeing the operations of the Security Service of Ukraine, and until now, prosecutor of the First Department of the Procedural Guidance and Supervision of Law and Abidance by the State Border Service, State Security Service, Department of Supervision over the Fiscal Service and Border Service of Ukraine. If you have any additional data, please let us know. Yes, I have some additional data. Our department was reorganized in late May. So I have the same position, the same place, the same room, but the department name changed. And the name of my position, I'm providing the copy of the order of the Prosecutor General and a copy from my work record book. Katarina Koval. So, did you ever, were you ever brought to disciplinary responsibility? Were you commended? What is your motivation? I have been working for more than a decade in the prosecutor's office. I was many times commended by the prosecutor of region and by the prosecutor general. Never been brought to disciplinary responsibility. So all my career is a history of fight against crime and fight for justice. I'm always trying to be well-based when prosecuting people. I have referred almost 200 cases to court which were not exonerated. Whenever I work as an investigator or a prosecutor, I was always investigating high-profile crimes. My method is fighting crime and fighting corruption by my own example and not by words. By investigating the cases, I can see how corruption is devastating the economy, how one incorrect decision of an investigator or of a judge can ruin the many months of work. In my work, I don't pay attention to some surnames or names of the criminals. I'm not threatened by any threats or any statements. The power, the governments often change in Ukraine, and we have to be consistent. I believe that I will be able to ensure this systematic and efficient fighting against corruption to bring more benefits to the state, which is my motivation. If the Commission chooses me, they will never regret their decision. I'm ready to answer your questions. Thank you. So you have a very good, very big career list. I will be asking you about your work in the Inspectorate General regarding your attitude. So when the prosecutors at the same time get a certificate of a lawyer, what is your attitude? Because Inspectorate General was asking about this. So can there be people who are active prosecutors who also gave an oath? So can active prosecutors take an oath of a lawyer as well? This doesn't concern you, but I would like to know your opinion. Response: I know that a lot of my colleagues, while working in the prosecutor's office, they were trying to get lawyer certificates to become a lawyer. I don't believe that this is a lack of integrity or some, these times are very difficult when you can be out of work in one day, you can lose your job in one day, and it's very difficult to get a lawyer certificate. But for myself, I have decided that if I work in the prosecutor's office, I wouldn't pass any exams to become a lawyer, to be a trainee of a lawyer, or to take an oath of a lawyer. In my work, several times I saw that we had an officer, a prosecutor, then he was detained, he was notified about suspicion, and while in the jail, he stated that he was a lawyer and he was notified about suspicion in an incorrect way. But I believe that the guarantees of operations, that the work of prosecutor or lawyer cannot be combined. You have to be either prosecutor or a lawyer. Thank you. Thank you. You are not a lawyer. You are not in the register of lawyers. You have never passed an examination of lawyers. No, I didn't. So we have conclusions by different agencies. You have provided answers in the questionnaire. We have some claims by NGOs. We have a lot of materials. So As for the information online, there is an article stating that you are accused of pressurizing a suspect, or Mr. Manger. You are pressurizing the suspect for him to make a plea deal. Can you explain? Yes, I have never seen this article. Mass media has a lot of materials, a lot of videos and articles. I didn't see this particular article, but yes, I'm working in this proceeding. I received it in early January 2020, when the society was saying that the investigation was not effective, that the criminal case was trying to be protracted and stopped without a due attention. And during my procedural guidance, in several months, one of the organizers, one of the suspects, was detained in Bulgaria, and in March 2020, he was extradited to Ukraine, where, according to my petition, he was put to jail, and right now he is still detained until this time, and the proceeding is in the court, Dniprovsky District Court. We have active court meetings. Sometimes we have 3 court meetings in 1 week, from 12 o'clock until 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. During my procedural guidance, the restrictive measure for another suspect was changed. At that time, he was the chairman of Kherson Council. So I made a petition to change the restrictive measures. They were trying to use all the levers to influence, but during the court meeting, which was only stopped for, so the court session was going on for 1 week with only breaks for sleep, and this person is still detained. Not a single time I have never offered him to make a plea deal, and his position is that he is categorically against our suggestion, and he does not concede. I have never initiated a plea deal, and I have never pressurized him at his place of detention. I have never visited him.
Place of detention. Never visited him in his place of detention. So there were up to 10 defendants during the pre-trial procedure. So it's also impossible to have a pressure on this person, given such number of defenders. Thank you for your response. We'd like to specify, you applied for 3 positions. 3 positions. Colleagues, do you have any questions to candidate? Evgen Yurich Drago, are you online?
I'm online, yeah. I will ask some questions a bit later. Okay.
Дякую. Будь ласка, задавайте запитання, колеги, якщо є.
Please, colleagues, ask your questions. Unless you have questions, we can proceed with the discussion. Vyacheslav, do you have relatives outside of Ukraine? I have no relative. I have an aunt and cousin of my mother. Thank you, thank you.
Колеги, є ще запитання?
Are there any questions, colleagues?
Повторюю, що дійсно ми вивчили досьє.
We scrutinized your dossier, the profile, and we received your answers to questionnaires, and we asked questions regarding the issues that were not covered in your profile or in your answers. May I ask the questions asked by the CSOs for you. As far as I know, for 3 years, you haven't declared any title, use of property to any real estate objects. Just could you please explain the situation? Indeed, there was such a regarding the CSO's request. There was the article on the mass media. After then, several hours after that, I collect all the necessary documents, prepared explanations, send them to the address of all the CSOs involved in this case. I send the replies to the electronic emails, and I repeated, and I asked them to process the information I provided. And on the 23rd of June, on their website, Transparency International, De Jure, and Autometa, and they publicized, they posted information, that explanation provided by me give the full answer to the questions asked by the suicide organization question. Concerning the question you asked, I can explain you that over the 2 years, I didn't declare my place of any places of items of real estate item. At that time, there was the effective law about the combating corruption. And back then, you were supposed to declare the property you personally owned as of 31st of December. But in 2019-20, the new explanations were given, and then in that case, after the explanation, the officials had to declare the items of real property that have been owned for more than 185 days. So back in 2015-16, I changed 6 places of residence, both in Rivne and in Kiev. And my second child was born, and we had to move to different apartments. And after that, I was commissioned to the General Prosecutor's office to work in the investigation group. To run the investigation concerning the General Prosecutor's case. So I had to come to Kiev without having in the dormitory. I wasn't given any dormitory or place of residence. So I resided together with my wife's relatives. I resided with my friends. So after some time, my cousin of my in-law's cousin allowed me to live in this, to occupy several rooms of her house. So I've lived there for 1 month, and then my wife went to Rivne to live with her parents. In fact, I didn't have any right to use any real estate object, and I was just a tenant. I was just a guest. And so I used the norms of the civil law. So because if I declare the title of use of any of these apartments I resided in, real estate of my relatives I used, then I will be able to give any substantiation the right title to those objects of real estate. Further on, when the relatives of my wife allowed us, with me and my wife and children, to use part of their building or the house. So we took care of that, the part of the house. We remodeled some of those rooms. I submitted the declaration that I used the said property as a user. So did you live more than 185 days in one place? No. At maximum period of residence was 1.5 months in a single. Any other questions from colleagues?
Скажіть, будь ласка, от я, на жаль, не можу добре розгледіти,
Unfortunately, I cannot see
як ви себе поводите там безпосередньо в
how
судовому
you behave during the session, but tell me, you gave very self-assured, speech. Did you read it, or have you? Yeah, I have prepared the speech. Indeed, I usually try to be well prepared for court sessions and meetings like that. So I always take very serious approach to business like this, and I was reading from the paper because I was afraid to miss something. Did you prepare the speech yourself? Of course, I prepared it myself. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Будь ласка, Драго.
Drago, you're welcome to ask it.
Okay, thank you. So the question for the candidate, have you ever disclosed the secrets of investigation illegally to any other person than you were authorized to? So any illegal disclosures of the information on the investigation?
Жодного випадку незаконного розкриття інформації в моїй
In no way I disclose illegal information about my investigations. I conducted pretrial investigations and in criminal proceedings were some subjects. Mainly, there were mostly it was the subjects of the investigations were prosecutors that have such a good knowledge of laws that it would be enough to make one glance or proper behavior that the person would understand. And then there is some kind of pre-trial investigation is taking place with regard to that person. So when I was performing pre-trial investigations, no way we go to detain a person, paid person that was taken a bribe or doing some illegal actions, and the person would know that such activities were planned against this person. So in no way I never disclosed any information in an illegal way.
Thank you. May I ask another question?
Будь ласка, Драго.
Okay,
Please,
so thank you. So there were articles in the media that they were pressuring one of the suspects to reach agreement with the investigation. So what's your opinion about those articles and how, let's say, what did it really happen? What happened in that case?
Я не зовсім зрозумів, щодо якої статті.
I didn't really understand what kind of article do you mean?
There was an article.
Do you mean Ganzuk?
Yes, yes.
Кандидат просто відповідав на запитання, якщо у вас...
The candidate has answered that question.
Yeah, I just want to hear about his opinion, not the factual statement, but what does he thinks about that? Because it's not very usual that prosecutors would be accused of exerting pressure on the suspects.
Дякую.
Thank you. If you go online, you can find hundreds of thousands of articles concerning this criminal proceeding. In only few of the articles say that this under this proceedings there was some illegal pressure involved, and know for sure that one of the organizers of this crime, one of the perpetrators, controls his own mass media in the territory of Kherson region, where he was the head of the regional administration. So from time to time, the mass media get together, they hold some kind of Rodriguez press conferences regarding this criminal proceeding, where they control journalists come to these bridges and they distribute information that is provided by the defendant. And so no information from the prosecution is not taken into account. But I believe that the action of the prosecution is legal and aimed at performing the task of the criminal proceeding. I always try, when there is a possibility, to provide commentary to mass media concerning this specific criminal proceeding. Because we're often in situations when we leave the courtroom and then the lawyer runs to the mass media and starts telling that didn't really happen during the court session. So speaking of they start speaking about a decision not taken by the court. But unless you give in your commentary and if you not refute those theses, then this information is circulated via mass media, and that information is untrue, is not true, of course. So you need to give your comments. Drago, did you hear the answer of the candidate?
Yeah, I heard the answer. I just have one comment. So you obviously don't like media too much, but this is not a question. This is just a comment. So thank you. I'm done with questioning.
У нас є прес-центр, в принципі, що...
Дякую. Є ще питання?
Are there any questions? May I ask one more question regarding the obtaining the illegal benefit? Have you been offered any illegal remuneration? I wasn't offered any illegal remuneration. I also worked with the legal enforcement, the position himself in a certain way and behaves in a certain way. Nobody would come to offer illegal remuneration because that person will be afraid that that he or she would be detained for such an offer. So in your professional activity, you need to behave in such a way to avoid giving any hints or any ideas to other side to offer you any illegal remuneration. Did you give the same answer during the polygraph check? Yes, I gave the same answer. Maybe in other the wording was different, but the meaning was the same. Thank you. Good.
Колеги, ми можемо втратити кворум, ми можемо перейти до обговорення запитання.
Can we proceed with the discussion, or do you have any other questions?
Немає запитань? Тоді попрошу
No
вас.
questions? Andrei Vladimirovich, please wait. I provided complete answers, I hope.
Переходимо до обговорення, колеги. Прошу
Proceed with the discussion. Please express yourself.
Які будуть пропозиції, зауваження, коментарі?
Any proposals, comments, suggestions? No? No? Dear colleagues, the candidate persuaded me. I have no doubts about his integrity. So I'm sure this is one of the decent candidates that can take the administrative position and be a strong personality that can show something, do something, and in a positive way. Investigations and support of the public prosecution is such a category of cases, and public pressure regard to the person and the ability of the person to remain strong under such circumstances testifies that this is a decent candidate. unambiguously vote for him. I support his candidacy.
Значний досвід. Тут
He's got a
сказав,
significant experience, a number of criminal procedures, and the absence of the so it means that he can contribute to development of and it could activate the fight against corruption, and he would ensure legality during the pre-trial investigation of this category of cases.
Дякую. Маю надію, що
Thank you. I hope that this kind of would unite the coalition. Are there any commentaries? Evgeny,
також підтримую
I also support
Гуджула, його висловлювання з
Gudula,
приводу зазначеного кандидата,
in favor of the
що
candidate.
дійсно вагомий
And indeed,
практичний досвід і
He's got a very
аналізуючи
he's got ample
відповідні документи,
experience.
побачив, що, ну, так би
Having
мовити,
analyzed the document, he's
сумлінна
well-fired,
і доброчесна людина,
he's
яку
integral.
можна підтримувати. Дякую.
He's an integral person, and his integrity, there is no doubt about his integrity. So does the members of the commission agree that the candidate meets the integrity requirements to occupy the position of the chairman or deputy chairman of the SAP? Please vote. Drago?
Драго, ви голосуєте?
Drago, do you vote?
Yes, I vote. I had some problems.
Yes,
So I vote yes. I vote yes.
Я голосую.
Одноголосно? Я права?
У нас одноголосно прийняте рішення.
The
Всі члени
decision is unanimously. Finally, we're happy to see that. Congratulations.
Casi, suco.
ці кандидати, чи вже дійсно достойна людина, дійсно. І працював вже сам, коли ж внутрішній безпеці.
Андрій Володимирович, я вас вітаю. Рішення відповідності кандидата критеріїв доброчесності.
Okay, congratulate you. The decision was voted for unanimously, and congratulations on your candidacy. And you proceed to the next stage.
Дякую членам конкурсної комісії. У нас є
Thank you, dear members. We have 3 candidates for the deputy, for the head of the division, and 1. So we have 3 candidates for the head of the division, and only 1 for the position of the deputy or deputy head and head of the SAPO. Shall we have 5-minute break? After such victory, it's good to have a break. We can resume at 6 p.m. Somebody wrote to the chat that they will not be able to participate. Bogdan Vasil requests a 5-minute break.
Let's invite the candidate. Dear colleagues, let us check the connection. Drago, can you hear us? Mr.
Yeah,
Sobol.
I can hear you. I'm with you.
Thank you. Let us continue our work. We have a lot of people from Rivne region and Ternopil region, Lviv region. This is not the entire Ukraine. Patriots. They have active public position. So we continue our 9th meeting, 3rd stage. We have Smiley Ivan Vitalyevich, the commission members present today. Богдан Романюк, Андрій Гуджел, Катерина Коваль, Роман Койбіда, Євген Соболь, В'ячеслав Навроцький, Томас Фаєрстон, Драго Кос, and Олена Бусол. Dear colleagues, do you have any self-recusals? No self-recusals. No recusals from the candidate. Do you have any statements or petitions, maybe protests? No statements. Ivan Vitalyevich Smiley, born in 1990, never been brought to criminal responsibility, never been brought to administrative responsibility for violations of corruption, graduated the Institute of the Security Service of Ukraine, of the National Legal Academy of Yaroslav Mudry, and 2011-2012 Institute of Legal Staff of the Security Service of Ukraine, of the National Legal Academy of Yaroslav Mudry. This is a separate institute in the National University. Yes, so you have a Master of Arts degree, studied in the institute, the year 7 until the year 12, cadet, 12 to 16, investigator of the Security Service of Ukraine, 2016 to 2016, third department of the main department of detectives of NABU, a detective, from 16 to 17, Department of Detectives of the third department of the Directorate, senior investigator, deputy head of the department, later senior investigator, head of the department, fifth unit of detectives of the main department of the NABU, senior detective, head of the department in the NABU, until 2020, State Service of Ukraine for the issue of geodesy and cadastre. So do you have any specifications? No, no specifications. So today, yes, today I am deputy head of the State Geographical Cadastre of Ukraine. Thank you, Ivan Vitalyevich. I would like to ask you, as a lawyer, regarding your lawyer certificate, but at first, please let us know, have you ever been brought to disciplinary responsibility? We have an information that, according to the order of the president, that you were awarded with an order, you had a medal for military service. Dear Commission member, I would like to tell you about my life and my motivation, why I'm participating in the competition, and to answer all the questions. I used to study in the Demidov School, Lyceum. I was interested in the history of Ukraine, mathematics, programming. In the higher school, I was winning competitions in programming. I was able to resolve different tasks, problems, and algorithms. I like an idea. I like people who are fighting crime, who are fighting corruption. So I decided to participate in the competition for the security service of Ukraine. I passed relevant selection, relevant competition. According to my tests, I was selected to study in a specialized institution of the security service of Ukraine. This is a special institution in the Kharkiv Academy. I believe that this is the best institution for preparation investigators. So we have 3 or 4 classes in the National Academy and 2 classes in the separate institution. We were studying investigative activities, operative activities. So we were prepared as investigators for the security service of Ukraine. I would like to say that a lot of graduates, a lot of alumni, current heads of different departments of the security service of Ukraine and the State Bureau of Investigations. After graduation, I was sent to serve in the city of Kyiv. During my military service in the security service of Ukraine in the city of Kyiv, I was promoted ahead of time to the captain of justice. I was also awarded with a medal for military service by the president of Ukraine. So what was the reason for awarding me? Approximately in the summer of the year 14, in Kyiv, we received materials about criminal case on the kidnapping of Nadia Savchenko when she was sent to Russia. So my task was to collect evidence to confirm that she was kidnapped and forcefully taken to the Russian Federation, and that the Russian party's evidence are collected with violations. So this was an important task because the image of Nadia Savchenko was used at that time in their propaganda. They were accusing her that she was a sniper, Ukrainian sniper. My task was to prove that she was not a sniper. She was not a shelling character because of her eyesight. So she was kidnapped and sent to the Russian Federation. And what periods of time she was forcefully detained. We carried out complicated expertise and videos to confirm how she was detained by the illegal military forces. I was using help of Kindise experts to collect the necessary materials. Also, the Russian defenders. Sorry for speaking too quickly. Also, the defense of Nadia Savchenko in Russia, they were collecting materials to be presented to the investigative committee of the Russian Federation. So in Ukraine, we were collecting evidence to disprove the accusation. I analyzed a large volume of data. I was able to identify all the Russian terrorists who participated in the kidnapping. This was the Zarya battalion of Russia. We were able to prove that she was before the Russian journalists were shelled. We intercepted the talks with KGB to send her regarding her sending to Russia and to use her. So we totally refuted their idea that Ms. Savchenko was able to kill any people. I will tell you why this was unreal. Just imagine there is a war in the eastern Ukraine, and according to the idea of the Russians, Nadia Savchenko was running in the heat of the battle. She was going up on a television tower, and then she used military binoculars to look at the Russian journalists. Of course, this wasn't true. So I collected the evidence. I I used them for fighting against the Russian propaganda. That's why the president awarded me with the medal. So what was the outcome? Katarina Koval. I'm very interested because I also participated. I was also among the lawyers who were sending materials to the Russian Federation regarding a case. So I wanted to ask you, personally, I saw a negative characteristic against Nadia Savchenko, which was sent to the Russian court from the military unit. So who was in control of the process? Because when a detention measure was being selected, so Ukraine sent a negative characteristics against Ms. Savchenko. This doesn't concern our interview, but still. So as for me, I decided not to provide any materials that could have been used by the Russian party in order to accuse her. Of course, those characteristics may be manipulative. I was warning the lawyers that they shouldn't do this, but unfortunately, this wasn't in my power. So this bad characteristics was signed by the line manager of Nadia Savchenko in Ukraine. Response: I can't say why the lawyer did it this way. But as for the lawyers, yes, I can say maybe they did some mistakes. Everybody does mistakes, but they were able to build a very good defense. And we were able to show to the entire world, we were able to make this case high profile. We were able to show that the Russians were providing fake information. If you remember, the question of Nadia Savchenko was raised in Ukraine in the session of the European Union Council. So we did a good job, despite what happened after her freeing. Katarina Koval. Unfortunately, Ukraine was not able to organize a very good defense, and the rewards to the lawyers of Nadia Savchenko was paid by a Polish fund. So this was a response about my military service and my reward with a medal. I used to work in the security service of Ukraine. In the year 16, so one of my former institute mates told me that he was working in the NABU. He said that they were able to fight corruption. I got interested in this, in the essence of their work, so I participated in the competition. I was able to pass the competition successfully, so I started to work as a detective of NABU. It was difficult to assess, to compare my knowledge and their knowledge, because in order to be a department head, you need to know, you need to see their knowledge and my knowledge. So when I came to NABU, I got a criminal proceeding on embezzlement in Ukr-Agro-Leasing, a private joint stock company, for leasing of equipment. Former member of parliament was brought to responsibility, who used to be the head of Ukr-Agro-Leasing, and his son, who was the head of the same company after him. I will not be giving the exact names. There were over 100 volumes. It was very difficult. It was given to us, but I found that there was no economic expertise, no audio or video expertise regarding sounds. So I completed this case. I collected all the materials regarding all the agreement signing. And in the year 16, it was referred to court. It is still being considered by the courts. In autumn of the year 16, I passed the competition for deputy head of the department. And I headed the investigative work, because detectives need to do the operative work and investigative work. So I was guiding, managing the activities of my subordinates in different criminal proceedings. During my work in the NABU as a deputy head, my department referred a case of state grain corporation regarding large sorts of sums of money. So it is still considered in court. And also I sent a number of cases in the sphere of land regarding bribing judges of Kiev courts, Kiev appellate courts, of abuse of power of judges in the Volyn court. In 1 year, I also became head of the department. And since that time, I've been working as the head of the department of the NABU until October 2020. As for the cases that we referred when I was a department head, I think this is one of the largest land cases, in my opinion, about stealth of the land of the Agricultural Sciences Academy. We had about 10 suspects, leadership of the academy, directors of the institute, members of the board. Also, one of the SBU officers was brought to the responsibility, who was organizing their operations, and the heads of the relevant cadastre. So this case is also being considered in courts. So also under my management, we started a case on theft of money in one of the bank for 1.2 billion hryvnia. So we were trying to bring to responsibility the bank leadership, some people of the National Bank of Ukraine leadership. So the investigation is reaching its conclusion. I hope it will be referred to court. This is about my work in the NABU. In the summer of 2020, I acquainted with Roman Leshchenko from the geographical cadastre. He told me that he would like to reform the state land cadastre. So my department used to work with the Ministry of Agriculture. So we were working with land cadastre. We were working with regarding the agricultural cases. So first of all, I explained to him that I was working in fighting corruption. So we had an idea to send one of the detectives there, but the detectives were not complying with the requirements. So I understood that I was working in the NABU and I couldn't see any big career growth in the NABU. But I have my own personal ambitions, but I wouldn't like to tell you right now about that. But I wanted to develop my career and the work in the state geographical cadastre as a deputy head. Why it was interesting for me? This was a possibility to accomplish myself as an A category servant. This are new challenges, new responsibilities. That's why I agreed. I passed the necessary selection, and in October 2020, I was appointed as deputy head of the land cadastre. First of all, I worked with general information, analyzing the petition to understand how the central apparatus is working from the inside. But in February of 2021, one of the heads was dismissed. So I was appointed to the Qualification Commission of the State Land Cadastre. And maybe because I had the best skills of working with HR, with the staff, so we analyzed the reorganization of this institution. We analyzed the management model. I prepared certain conclusion saying that the new model is not perfect. We had a risk of losing of more than 1,500 state registrators for their transfer to the new structure. So the cadastre would have been without its main function. So we reported this to the Minister Leshchenko, and there was a decision to change the reorganization process. And also, starting from February 2021, my main directions are inspection. We work with the law enforcement agencies. We help to do the inspections and checks We did a lot of inspections on different cases. On the last moment, the president gave us certain tasks to rework certain moments. We have very smooth cooperation with law enforcement in order to bring to responsibility the guilty persons. And recently, the State Investigation Bureau brought to responsibility some officers in the Odessa department of the State Geographical Cadastre. Very often, we bring to responsibility different officers in different regions. We have very good cooperation with law enforcement, and I still have, and there are no complaints so far. Moreover, because other deputies had a lot of responsibilities, I was responsible for financial department as well. Right now, I work mostly in financial managerial decision, and we shall see how the situation will develop in the institution. Of course, this work is very interesting for me. We have a lot of achievements. We transferred a lot of lands to the local communities even before the law was adopted, because I believe that the local communities, the local self-government has to be managing the lands. I know that the corruption risks are still high, but the land will be managed by the people elected by the local communities and not by people appointed from above. And also we have the law has been adopted 2194, who made also our work easier. And we are working on the model to minimize corruption risks in the state land cadastre. We work a lot with NAPC. We have NAPC inspection in our institution right now. We are revealing the existing problems. We are developing new regulation for the qualification commissions. So we need to remove the oral examination to minimize corruption risks in our institution. I'm sorry, Katarina Koval. I'm sorry, Ivan Vitalyevich. We are very pleased to see that you have been preparing very well. I'm sorry for interrupting you. So, will the State Service of Land Cadastre, will this be a big loss for the land cadastre if you move on to the SAPO? Did you have any competition? No. At that moment, right now I'm passing a selection process, but before that they appointed me because there was a lockdown, and of course maybe this will be a loss to the state land cadastre if I leave. But when I was starting to work with the state land cadastre, I didn't want to work for a long time. I just wanted to see how it works. And I think this is a precious experience. And I think I got a lot of new skills of staff management, of forecasting different critical situations and resolving situations. But for myself, back in the winter, when I found out about the competition to the SAPO, I decided to submit my candidacy. And if I win, I will go. So what if you win both competitions? Response: I will go to the SAPO. The state land cadastre knows about that, and Minister Leshchenko knows about that. I respect the head of the land cadastre, but when I was appointed to my work, I notified them about my willingness to work in the SAPO. So what is my motivation? I would like to say that for me, this is a possibility, first of all, for self-accomplishment. What can I see? There is an opportunity for me to do the work I like and to bring as much benefits as possible for our country. Because in my opinion, the corruption is the largest threat to the country and to the national security. I have a lot of experience on investigation, on cooperation between different law enforcement agencies, on personnel management. SAPO has to be not only a good prosecutor, he also has to know how to organize people to achieve the goal, to work as one team. So why we need this corruption fight? The president has emphasized several times that we need to improve our efforts, and Prosecutor General's office and other agencies. So if I am appointed as head of the SAPO or deputy head, I can see my work as organizing and streamlining cooperation with the Prosecutor General's office, because we need to do to work together, because we need to avoid the cases when the court believes. So when a case is investigated by one agency, and then the court says that the investigation was done by an improper agency. The second point is to raise efficiency of SAPO operations. So at one of the interviews, one of the commission members said, SAPO has been working for a long time. What disciplinary proceedings have been there? Has anyone been brought to disciplinary responsibility? Most of the SAPO prosecutors are very good, decent people who know how to work, but we need to assess their work. We need to understand who is meeting the demands for fighting corruption, but maybe some of them have lost their motivations or maybe are not up to the job. I believe that those people are not only in the SAPO, but in the NABU as well, so we need to work in this direction. The third point is to improve cooperation with the NABU and to set the priority of cases, because I believe that SAPO needs to do the procedural guidance, and SAPO has to manage the referral to court, and SAPO has to fulfill the task of fighting corruption by means of referring cases to court. So we need to improve motivation in this case. And the last thing, I would like to consolidate the team, to the staff, because we can see a lot of moments when they work disjointly, but I believe that we will be able to find good ways to work together. So this is about my motivation and why I made this decision.
During your work in NABU, how did you get this job? So how did you get this job? In the beginning of 2018, I decided to at the time there were media statements that NABU should to be liquidated, but I wasn't ready to work in any other legal enforcement agency. I changed my specialization. So I decided to obtain the certificate of a lawyer, and I obtained it in the end of 2018. At the same time, I understood that the process would be a lengthy one, and it passed 2 years. The past 2 years, I think it was 2019, I passed the first test and decided that I want to be an intern. Why in Rivne? Because I am working in Kiev, and with many lawyers we communicate is part of professional work. So I understood that there will going to be a conflict of interest when one of the members of the commission. So in the future, I will have to participate in many contests, and they will ask me questions. How did you get this position? But in order to pass this test, do you have to be registered in Rivne, or do you have place residence in Rivne? So how did it happen? I'm originally from Rivne region myself. I have a lot of friends who reside there, and I visited that city very often. I have an uncle living in Rivne, and I visit him, and I stay at night at his home. And so based on the agreement with my uncle, I was able to live in my uncle's apartment and be an intern and start internship in the March 2020. And I was interned at Mr. Stelatova's office. She was recommended to me as a very professional lawyer. So how did my internship go? I worked, I attended the proceedings in the form of the video conferences. And I tried to, when I finished in my internship, I resigned from NABU, passed the test, not as the NABU officer, but the certificate I was received when I was just a public servant. So this is concerning my certificate of lawyer. And how did I get it? Are there any questions from the colleagues? Dragos, Sabo, Mr. Rahman.
Вибачте, паралельно дивлюся документи і
I apologize.
яким чином ви опинилися в
How come that you
чути мене?
can you hear me? So how come
Опинилися в Держгеокадастрі, бо здається, що
how come did you start your employment at state land cadastre of Ukraine or state land register of Ukraine? Because you were an investigator originally.
Я розслідував наш напрямок.
Anti-corruption bureau. I can investigate a great number of cases regarding the land abuse or in the land area. So I had a very ample experience of working with this kind of cases, and so at that time I had enough skills to be deputy head of this state land register of Ukraine. But in general, speaking in general, I hope that the work that we have done will be evaluated and have a positive result. Are there any conflict of interests involved? There are no conflicts or conflict of interests because haven't any instigated the illegal proceeding against the persons from the state land register. So there are no personal reasons or interests whatsoever. How did you meet the management of state land registry? I met them.
Це бюро, безпосередньо з працівника з внутрішнього аудиту Держгеокадастру, тому що ми були залучені як
we involved the officers of the state land register as the internal auditor for our investigations, and Mr. Roman Leshchenko came and he acquainted himself with the NABU's management, and so we established contact with him to investigating the facts of the because we were investigating the activity of the state land register before the advent of Mr. Leshchenko as the chairman or head of that institution. Thank you. A couple of questions. Question number one: How did you, after the graduation of the academy, how did you get to the capital of Ukraine? Have you got any referral or what? How did you get to Kiev? I served as security service of Ukraine. I had a referral from Rivne region, investigation department. There worked 14 persons in the investigation department. So when I completed my education, I received, at that time, there were only 2 vacant positions at the Rivne region. One of them. We know that. Thank you for information. I didn't have any vacancy for myself. Only vacant places were in Kiev and Sebastopol at that time. I chose Kiev because it was closer or because Sevastopol was far from there, although there were a lot of benefits involved with the Sevastopol position. But I didn't really like that place at that time, and I decided to move to Kiev. I have some doubts about your explanations, because I know what Kiev is. Usually when the persons are referred to Kiev, they refer only persons with ample experience are referred to Kiev. Okay, let me explain you. At that time, 24 vacant places were in the investigation department of Security Service of Ukraine in Kiev. I know the structure of Security Service of Ukraine. Thank you for that. And from my course, as far as I remember, only 4 persons decided to work in the investigation department. I wasn't the only young specialist that went to work in the Kiev office of SB. There were people from Bila Circle. There were people from Kiev region. If you look at the composition of the investigation department, you will see the average age of this officers is 21, 26 years. So among those people I decided to work with, nobody is working in that department at the moment. So the rotation is very high. The level of rotation. Who was the head of department back then? At that time, my direct manager was Mr. Petro Masons, and which Kiev department. Who was the head of the investigation department in the city of Kiev, as far as I remember, was Mr. Derevyanko from the prosecutor's office, as far as I remember. And question number 2, you know, so when I looked at you couldn't avoid saying that when we asked why did you decide to move to a new place while you were working, you said that I would like to. You said I wasn't noticed at Nabu, but at Nabu there was a great number of managerial positions there. I didn't say I wasn't noticed. Maybe you misunderstood my words. You said that. You said that I overgrew my current position. Now you're saying something different, and said I worked for some time, and then there was opportunity emerged, and I want to do this and this and that. From the viewpoint of the integrity, if you go to state register, state land register, you wanted to occupy the managerial position, and you haven't worked even a day in the prosecutor's office, and then you decided to apply for the head of the big institution. You say, I want, but can I do that? First of all, I'm not saying that I wanted to assert myself or maybe to. Why did you decide to? I decided to occupy the position of deputy head of the stand later register of Ukraine because I don't want to enrich my experience. Because this kind of position would be interesting for any person with healthy ambitions, and I don't think this is. I haven't violated any criteria of integrity by running for that position. So the question is why I didn't realize myself at NABU. So there is a head of division, there is deputy division, head of division, but all these positions were occupied. And unfortunately, I can't say, oh, praise the Lord. NABU is quite a stable organization. Thanks, we have professionals working there. We can exchange experience. But it's very difficult to go up the career stairs. So, but then you said that I decided to apply for category A position, but I want to notice that the investigations that involve that for the investigator to be successful, but he not only gives he needs to live that life. He needs to be not only to give instructions to his subordinates, but to live that work. But just give me, please. I have 25 years of experience working in that institution. Please just give me a direct answer to my question. I was involved. I was conducting the research investigation work, and I one of the main criteria is why the head of the state land register of Ukraine decided to take me to this position is that my readiness to take decision in favor of public interest and my high professionalism. Are there any questions from the members of the commission? I have a number of questions. We learned that your wife is from Crimea. No, she worked in Crimea. No, she's originally from Crimea. Yes, but she worked there. Do you have any relatives of your wife that reside in the territory of Crimea? I have no relatives in Crimea. As far as I know, only uncle of my wife is residing in Crimea at the moment. Do you have any relatives outside of Ukraine? Neither me nor my wife have relatives outside of Ukraine. So from the very beginning, while you notified that the head of the state land register of Ukraine decided to take you to the position, to promote you to the position of the deputy head of that institution. So what was your motivation to? Looks like there is no other person to apply for that position. Or what was the motivation? Maybe you used a personal connection with the head of that institution to occupy that position. So did you try to realize this out? I had some doubts, healthy doubts, and explaining why. I have a family, and I realized there will be some loss in terms of remuneration while working at NABU. I created my small team, and it was quite successful. I liked working there. I organized the volleyball section. I like sports, and for me to take that decision wasn't quite an easy step.
Вона теж мала бажання, але вона не відповідала таким критеріям. Я досить довго думав і не
It took me a long time, and I didn't agree to that proposal. I told my wife there is such a risk, but we will suffer some material, maybe losses, but we can withstand that. So I decided to take that position. If any one of you would occupy any position at NABU, it would take you much time to decide whether to go from the institution. Do you have any conflict interests? Because the prosecutor supervises the compliance with the legislation during the pre-trial proceedings. So, but you have the very good relationship with many people, and do you suspect any sort of conflict of interest if you will supervise the effectiveness of the investigations? And aren't you afraid that your personal connection with people will interfere with that duty? Indeed. Anybody can have this kind of question, but a lot of NABU detectives became the procedural managers at SAPO, and they were quite effective. But also, I don't observe any conflict of interest because they're professionals, and each professional knows. First of all, so they put the task of the public service first, and everything else is secondary. So, so decided to act in full compliance with the laws of Ukraine. And the same time, when I had a department, I had very good relationship with people from my department. At the same time, there were some subordinates that failed to withstand the load in their positions. So either you provide some results or not. So you were the head of the department. So during your work in the department, did you have any? How did you respond to, or did you investigate? No justification sentences were made during my work in the position of the head of the department, and there was one sentence for head of the village council of Brovary district, and namely violation of rights in allocating the land plots. More than 60 criminal proceedings come annually. I think that the land investigation, land proceedings, criminal proceedings regarding the land are one of the most difficult ones. Of all the number of forensic investigations, it takes time, and the process is quite difficult. That's why it takes so much time to consider those cases. You traveled many times outside of Ukraine. What was the purpose of those trips, and what who paid for those trips? I traveled abroad only 2 times. Abroad to Egypt, and next last year I went to Turkey. So my expenditures have not exceeded my salaries. My other trips were related to business trips. It's the exchange of experience with other prosecutors' offices of other countries. And I was also involved in the Parliamentary Assembly of Council of Europe work, and so these were the business trips, not more than that. Because we have 10 minutes left. Shall we continue in 10 minutes or what? Are there any questions? Mr. Vyacheslav. Vitaly Ivanovich, do you or your family members own land plots? Thank you for the question. Neither me nor my wife own land plots, or maybe fortunately my parents own land plots, some kind of gardens that they have acquired back in 1990s. My father-in-law is the head of farming company, and so he owns the land plot as the farmer that he acquired back in 2006. I have a question. Are you satisfied with the results of the polygraph tests? Thank you for the question. In my life, I was polygraphed some 5 times. I communicated with polygraph officers. I know the methodology. I know all the bottlenecks of that work. So you know how to avoid tricky question. No, I don't know how to avoid. This time, I didn't equate myself with the results of that test because I was given honest answers. I don't know how my answers were interpreted by the polygraph specialist. That's his professional decision. Do you think? So, what's your opinion? How do you estimate the entire procedure of the polygraph test? Maybe it's going to be some sort of exaggeration from my side, but when you ask a question that is relevant to your work or to your work experience, that has nothing to do with you, but at the same time you have some maybe dispute, then they can. But the test of the polygraph specialist to ask very specific questions. But the polygraph specialist asks the specifying questions several times. So maybe, but I was given the true answers to all the questions. Do you know? Are you aware of the methods to counteract the polygraph test? I don't know this. I'm not aware of these methods, and I don't understand why one should use them. I don't think any sense to withstand or somehow to counteract with the polygraph test. Are there any additional questions? Thomas?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. If I'm not mistaken, there was an article in the media in which which said that you had tried to extort money from a Ukrainian businessman. Could you just comment on that? Do you, I assume you reject those accusations. Could you explain your point of view on that article?
Я повністю відхиляю такі звинувачення.
I reject those accusations. I didn't read this article, but I guess what you mean. I think one of the most like a famous criminal procedures in my life. So one of the one of my colleagues who was on the other side of the barricade. He was the owner of this media, and he can afford posting this information concerning me, not maybe him, but his related persons, to discredit me, because in the eyes of the public, it's a dirt tactics which is often used in our law enforcement system. Drago, Sobol, do you have any questions?
I can hear you, and I have a question for the candidate. So,
Mr. Eugene? Evgeny Yuryevich, can you hear us? We have quorum. And Drago said that he had a question. Drago, you're welcome to ask the question.
Okay, so candidate, you said that was a smear campaign. Where did this lady get the copies of your messages from the phone?
Я, чесно вам сказати,
truly speaking, I didn't read that article in those messages. I was told about that, but that's not true. I don't know how they did that. I don't know the origin of those materials. But as far as I remember, that colleague that there is with regards not to me, but only the group of detectives, there is a pre-trial investigations. But if it was the truth, then I would otherwise be would be held accountable. So what I believe that they're just a set of maybe accusations that have nothing has nothing to do with truth. Other questions, colleagues?
Yeah, I have another one. May I? You said that this was your most important case, and then there's a smear campaign against you in the internet, and you don't even read the article, which is smearing you. How can this happen?
Дивіться, я скажу так, що
I can say that the article with the message exchange, well, I didn't read it, maybe accidentally, because usually those articles are published in the mass media, which are not very popular. Usually I don't read those mass media. Usually I read well-established media outlets like Ukrainian Pravda. I don't monitor the yellow press. Sometimes I read articles. They are not always concerning me, that the NABU is pressurizing somebody to raid their business, to acquire their business. Usually I don't believe this article. So how can NABU pressurize business? Maybe they have arrested assets of a company. How can this happen? How could this happen in this case? These are mere statements that do not correspond to the truth. I'm sorry. Yes, Thomas said that he had to go, but we still have quorum. Katerina Koval. So maybe what should we do? Should we proceed? Another question from Roman Kuibida. Miss Olena, what about your time? Olena, as for me, I'm trying to stay as long as possible. Katerina Koval. So, any questions, please? Question from Kuibida. Are you an officer of reserve of the security service of Ukraine? Response, no, I'm not an officer of active reserve or of SBU. Please, do you have access to the state secret? Currently, I don't have access to the state secret. A question, did you look at the materials of the special check? The candidate for this competition? No. And no questions were sent to you. Response, I was given a questionnaire, I provided exhaustive answers, and I hope that everything is clear, and I'm ready to give additional explanations. Roman Kuibida. Security service says that you have access to the state secret, but because the certificate was not provided, they cannot. Look, I had access before the state service. During my work in the state security service, when I stopped working in the SBU, it stopped. When the secret was opened when I worked in the NABU. After I left NABU, it stopped, and in the state land cadastre, I didn't get access to the state secret. Maybe SBU provided you information as of the end of the year 20. Yes, as of the end of the year 20, I had access to the secret, but I don't have it now. Roman Kuibida. We also have a question, we also have a response from SBU that they are not able to check the information about your relation to military service because the document was not provided. But I can see this document in your materials. Maybe this is a question to the quality of the special background check. Well, this is not about your integrity, but can we ask relevant HR department of the Office of the Prosecutor General to find out why SBU provided this answer? So SBU says that they are not able to check certain circumstances about you. Response. According to the current legislation, an SBU officer who is going to reserve, they are still registered with SBU. Yes, I'm registered for military service. Of course, in the state service of the land cadastre is making a report that I'm an obliged person for the military service. I don't know why they couldn't provide this information. Maybe they were not given the necessary documents, but I used to serve in the SBU. SBU has to know. I'm registered for military service in the main department of the SBU, so maybe the central department decided not to do this. No, they didn't ask me such questions. Well, Kuibida, this is not a question to you, but this is a question to the Commission, what we can do in such situation. It has nothing to do with the integrity, because, well, we should later consider this question. Candidate, I would like to add, to the Prosecutor General's office, I provided 2 certificates from the SBU that I was registered for military service. Roman Kuibida. Yes, we have those certificates, but again, I believe that Commission members can look at this response. So on the one hand, it says that you have access to the state service, but they didn't provide the document. And again, the HR department did not receive a necessary document for checking. Of course, this is not a question to you or your attitude, but this is a question to the quality of the special check. Probably we can resolve it later. If some additional information appeared later that you didn't provide all the necessary documents, we will be able to stop your participation at any future stage. But I hope your documents are well. But again, we need to send a question to the HR department of the Office of the Prosecutor General, how they made their conclusion basing on the response from the SBU. Katerina Koval, we need to vote to continue to extend. No more questions from Roman. Let us vote or to extend the time, because we still need some time for discussion. Drago, do you mind? We need to extend the time.
I agree.
Thank you. 3. Thank you for turning off the conditioner. Do you have any other questions? If there are no questions, dear candidate, please wait outside. Dear colleagues, any suggestions, any comments, please speak out. Roman Kuibida. I would like to comment. Look, well, I'm not an expert on special checks, but this is strange to receive such a response from the SBU and a positive conclusion that there are no limitations. However, I think that we didn't receive a proper response from the SBU according to our requirements. You can check the documents once again, but this is not a question of integrity of the candidate. I have no comments about the integrity. Katerina Koval, thank you. Any other comments, please?
Yeah, I have a comment.
Будь ласка, Драго.
Drago, please.
Yeah, theoretically, the candidate was very good, but when I asked him the questions about, let's say, the biggest case of his career and the accusations that he was blackmailing someone, so I still don't know what to do, but I would have serious difficulties to support him.
Більше немає коментарів, колеги?
Навроцький.
No more questions. Mr. Navrotsky. Dear colleagues, in the process of the interview, the worst thing from the point of view of the candidate was his trying to avoid the answer on counteracting the compromising materials. I also don't read everything in the mass media about myself, but preparing for this competition, and he should probably know that this question could have been raised during the interview, so he didn't read the mass media articles and he didn't provide the answer, and this happened unfortunately several times during the interview. Olena Busal, I agree with Mr. Navrotsky, Mr. Dragokos, and Mr. Roman Kuybida. Roman Kuybida, I don't have any big doubts.
Більше немає коментарів?
Katerina Koval, no more comments. Can we proceed to voting? Romaniuk, I also was asking him and he didn't answer. Katerina Koval. Bogdan Vasilyevich, do you want to comment? Do commission members agree that the candidate corresponds to the criteria of integrity according to the regulation of the selection commission work for the open positions in the SAP? Please vote. Please vote in favor, Koval and Mr. Kuybida. Right? What about Mr. Romaniuk, Mr. Gujal? Are you against? No. Drago, please, what is your vote? Drago, please say aloud.
I still vote against, I still vote for him.
Три голоси за.
Three votes in favor. Drago, please repeat.
Yes, I'm supporting the candidate.
Підтримує, так. Драго за, Kuybida.
Drago in favor, Kuybida in favor, and Koval in favor. The decision did not gain enough votes.
Шановний Іван Віталійович,
Dear
рішення
Ivan Vitalyevich, the decision on the correspondence of the candidate to the integrity criteria unfortunately did not gain enough votes. Thanks a lot. I was listening to the comments and I can tell you, I have never blackmailed anyone. Your decision is unfounded and those candidates are really good that you, and I believe that Roman Sinkiv was one of the best candidates. if you have questions to me, and he was also denied, please, I'm asking the Commission to elect the head of the SAP. SAP has to work and not listen to the Prosecutor General. So, Андрій Гуджал, where do you get this information? Roman Koibida. I think that we have to thank candidate for the words, because he is correct. The first voting surprised me because nobody expressed any well-founded doubts for the first candidate, but the results surprised me. So I'm asking, if we are voting against a candidate, we need to express our opinion why we are against. Well, Romaniuk, I was asking a question. I asked several questions and he didn't answer. How many times can I tell you? He said that there is not enough space for him, so I changed the job. Then I saw another opportunity there. He is just chasing a career. Roman Koibida. I meant the first candidate today. Nobody expressed any well-founded doubts or facts for the first candidate today, not to support him, but some of you did not support the first candidate. Katarina Koval. Thank you, colleagues. On the 29th of June, 16 o'clock, Tymoshenko, Ivolenko, Iformagei. Please let us know who will be able, who will not be able to participate, because some of the candidates need to go for holidays. They need to plan their time ahead. Romaniuk, I have never missed. Katarina Koval, thank you for the work. It was a very good day today. We had very good candidates. Unfortunately, some of them did not gain enough votes, but we really saw very good, decent candidates. Thank you, everybody, for participation. Good evening, good day.
Recording